comes a time where I must use all of my knowledge and wisdom for good and not evil, like I have been doing.
On the 19th of August this year, which is 2016, it'll be my 3-year travel-versary. 3 years since I left for Australia with a one-way ticket from Birmingham and just went. So I thought I would sit down and do a huge video on everything I think I know about budgeting. Now you'd think I'd have a video out like this before. Well, I did. It was actually like my 3rd ever YouTube video, and it was doing like, I'm talking 6 figures, back when I didn't really have that many subscribers, and then it got tactically hacked and that video got deleted. Thank you whoever did that. Let's talk about how to travel on a super tight budget. I'd like to say that I have a ton of videos on this channel. If you are new here, welcome. A ton of videos are going into way more detail on things I'm going to say, so go and check out my channel and I'll leave as many links as I can around the place for you. First, let's talk about accommodation. So one of the biggest ways that travelers save money on the road is by couch surfing. If you don't know, couch surfing is a website where there are people from all over the world that basically hand out their sofas or their spare rooms, and you basically get to stay with them for free. There's no catch, which is great because you get to stay with a local and have that amazing experience of really submerging yourself into a culture, and it won't cost you anything, and the chances are you'll make a really good friend by doing it. Hostels are your next best bet. I always use Hostelworld. There's Hostelworld and Hostelbookers, same thing. This is pretty much one of your cheapest ways of accommodation, and hostels are great because you get to meet so many people. If you're up for a drink and partying, there's hostels specifically designed for that as well. There are party hostels out there. Or you can get quiet, small, more homely hostels, but hostels are normally the way to go. Camping is another one, but I will say with camping is normally campsites are situated outside of the main area, if that makes sense. You don't normally find campsites in a city, so don't forget to add on for buying your camp gear, your tent, your sleeping bag, your mats, all of that, and also probably a car to get around with. I've been using Airbnb for over 2 years now, and I pretty much use it on almost every single booking, and it's just one of those sites where you can go and find weird and wonderful listings like tree houses in national parks, and you can get some incredible prices on there as well, and probably all heard of Airbnb. Also, if you fancy like £20 off your first trip with Airbnb, then there's a link down below. You get 20, I get 20, it's all a good time. Finally, Agoda has overtaken Booking.com for me as my new favorite place. If all else fails, Airbnb, Hostelworld, everything fails, then I go on to Agoda. They have some super competitive rates. One thing I will give you a hint on with accommodation is do not be too quick to book this. You need to make sure that your hostel is well located, because it's all well and good getting a hostel for £5 a night, but if it's located in a really awkward place, or you then have to spend money getting in and out to the city and to the attractions and things you want to see, then that might be a bit of a nightmare. So by paying a couple of pounds more a night in a better location, it'll save you time, money and effort. So that's one thing I will tell you and stress to look out for. May I say, this is all in a massive blog post on my website where I've included a ton of links to as many blog posts and videos as I could think of, so go and check that out, link in the description. Let's talk about food and drink. You're gonna have to eat when you're traveling. So you got your cheap accommodation, whether you're couch surfing, Airbnb, and whatever you're doing, you got yourself a sweet deal, now you gotta eat. If you want to, pick a hostel with a kitchen so you can self-cater. And it's always fun when you make a few friends in the hostel and you can all get together, throw in a couple of quid each, and make a massive meal, and then go and sit out on the patio or the balcony or wherever, whatever your hostel has, and just eat together, and it's just great. Supermarkets is my next big thing if you want to save money. If you're going to go out for a day, then pick up some bread and some spreads or some fruits and nuts and things like that to eat on the go and have like a picnic style lunch. That can save you a lot of money, especially if you're in a city where the restaurants and the food scene is pretty pricey. Also, if you're staying somewhere a little bit longer, then go to the supermarket late at night. I normally have a rule of thumb about 2 hours before they close and see what they have on the reduced shelves, because seriously, I have cooked like meals upon meals from just what I found on the reduced shelf. It's a good tip. Also, lots of hostels have free food bins where travelers are about to leave and they're like, oh, we didn't finish all this food we brought. They'll throw it in the free food bin or take it with them. And if they do, then it's kind of like fair game. There'll be bags of pasta in there, weird condiments, soy sauce, just weird things like that, but you can have a dig around and it might help you out a little bit. If you do want to eat out, then it's a tried and tested thing. Eat where the locals eat. If you see a ton of locals in a restaurant, chances are it's going to be much cheaper and much better quality. Also, markets are an amazing way to eat cheap. And the best thing about markets is you get to pick, like you get to have spring rolls here and dumplings there, and you just kind of wander around the market, do a little bit of shopping, and they're so much cheaper. You get to have a real taste of that country, a real taste of the real cuisine off the street. Now, I have made a video on how to avoid getting food poisoning, and I will link it up because that's very important when it comes to street food. Use common sense. If there's loads of meat lying around in the heat with flies all over it, don't eat that. Simple as that. When it comes to drinking alcohol, this is going to be your budget buster in a lot of countries, for example Australia. So if you do want to go out for a drink, it should never stop you going out for a drink just because it's super expensive. Just if you're into the party scene where you want to be doing shots and spirits and all that all night, you're gonna have to budget a lot more. There's no two ways about it. You're gonna have to budget a lot more. So what we do when we want to find a drink and maybe we're in a super expensive country, look out for happy hour. That's always a good one. Look into the backpacker areas or student areas around you. Those will always do really good prices on drinks. Or just have a few drinks from the shop before you go out to save yourself a bit of money. And finally, for food and drink, I would say avoid buying food on the aeroplane. Try and pick yourself up some like dried fruits and nuts. I find those are the best because they're quite small and they're quite filling and sweet, and they keep you going with some good energy. Obviously, you can't always avoid it. I sometimes buy like some noodles on a plane if I forgot, but try to avoid it because they are super expensive. Okay, let's talk about transportation. Getting to and from the airport can sometimes be like the biggest expense of your entire trip. Some countries are super good, so there's normally three options. You get a taxi, the bus, or the train. In general, those are your biggest three. Bus normally is the cheapest option. However, if you arrive and see no signs for a bus and you only see signs for an express train, then you're gonna think, if you haven't done your research, that the train is the cheapest way. Good to do a quick Google search. That's all it takes to find out what is the cheapest way to get to and from the airport. The bus is normally the cheapest option, but it's normally the longest option, so long as you're not in a rush, go for the bus. When it comes to taxis, here's your advice. Get them to put the meter on. I cannot stress this enough to you. Oh my god, okay, whenever we come out of like Bangkok airport or something and we hear the price and we're like, meter, that's the first thing we ask for. Do you have the meter? Are you gonna put the meter on? Meter, meter, meter. And they're like, no, we'll give you a price, like 500 baht, 1,000 baht, 2,000 baht. It's like, how many people do you rip off with this? Never haggle a price for a taxi. If they won't put their meter on, go to the next taxi. If they won't put their meter, keep doing, because one will, I promise you. If all else fails, download two apps. Uber, which everyone's heard of, and Grab. Grab is another one. It's exactly the same as Uber, but like in the Philippines, Grab is way more popular and it's what's used most. So having both apps, especially if you're coming around Asia, might help you out if one of them isn't as popular in that country as the other. But we try and avoid taxis at all costs. If you can't avoid a taxi, then please use those apps. They're going to be so much cheaper. Lots of big cities will probably have transport cards, like when you get the train or the bus, you top up a card, you tap it on and off. They will offer cheaper rates. So if you're in a city for a few days or a couple of weeks even, might pay to get one of those cards. Now obviously walking is the best way to get around because it's cheap, and I find it's the only real way I can orient myself in a new place. I get to take photos, I get to look at people, I get to see cafes and restaurants and shops that I'd never be able to stop and look at if I was on public transport. However, I will say this, if you're going to a super hot country and you're gonna be sweating so much because it's that hot, and it's going to exhaust you and really kind of ruin your day. So if you look at a map, you're like, no, it's all right, I'll walk the 30 minutes instead of getting, a £2 train. That's when I think budgeting goes a bit too far, because you're going to get to that place if it's like 70% humidity at 35 degrees, burnt, sweating, dehydrated, exhausted, and grumpy. Just get the train. When it comes to super hot countries, I've done it too many times and you just feel like crap. Also, if you want to save money while traveling and keep fit, then a lot of big cities as well also offer like city bikes where they'll be docked up around the city, and you pay a little fee and you can pull one out for a couple of hours and then return it to a dock. Our favourite way to get around, and it can be super cheap in Asia, is by scooter, because Scott rides a bike. Now I will preface this by only get a scooter if you are an experienced, confident rider. Driver. The amount of times we pass the bike shop here and see people get on and they're being told how to start it, and then you turn around and look at the Thai traffic and you're like, are you serious? You have no idea how to ride a bike and you're choosing Thailand to learn in this traffic where lanes and rules do not apply. Just don't be silly. Like, if you don't know how to ride a bike, Asia's really not the place to learn because the traffic is just insane. So let's talk about finding flights. Now I'm gonna be real, I do not know the ultimate hacks. That's why I've never done a video on how to find the cheapest flight, because I genuinely don't know. It's my process of how I get my cheapest flights. 6 weeks before is generally a good rule of thumb to getting the cheapest flight. It's either like super advanced, like 12 months before, or 6 weeks before. And I think that because sometimes with some airlines, the closer you get to the date of booking and flying, and if you leave it a week before, it gets more expensive. So what I do is I go onto SkyScanner and I use their everywhere function, especially like if you want to do a visa run and you just don't know where you want to go, or it's, you know, a Tuesday night and you're bored. Seriously, I spent so much time using SkyScanner's everywhere function for no good damn reason except to cure my wanderlust. Even though I am in a foreign country, all the time. I still have the itchy feet. So I use Skyscanner, get a good idea. So say you want to go to Bangkok and Skyscanner's offering the cheapest one through AirAsia, for example, is £200. I go onto Momondo and price check it because I find Momondo normally, more times than not, offer a better price. So another little tip if you want to save some money on airlines is either you've got air miles and air points, and I'm not going to go into that because I don't have them myself, but that's something you can look into, and using air points to upgrade or getting whole flights for free. Checking the airline's website directly, so say you're having a massive long haul flight, sometimes the airlines have exclusive like flash sales. So if you're spending like £800 on a flight somewhere across the world, just have a look and sign up to maybe their mailing list if you're researching in advance, because when they have flash sales, they're normally massive for airlines, but they don't last long. So sign up to newsletters. I have so many newsletters come through, it's actually quite ridiculous. Another reason why I use Momondo to save money is because they're normally cheapest, I found, to their algorithm. And I did do a video where I compared Skyscanner, Momondo and Kayak. I compared price on all those websites, so I'll link that up. It's actually a fairly good video. So you can see the differences between these websites. Some of them are shocking. Because Momondo seem to have really long layovers. Now there's the annoying layover, which is like 4 to 7 hours. That one where there's not enough time to clear immigration and go out and come back, but it's too long to spend in an airport. Unless it's Singapore airport, then that's practically a country of its own. So yeah, Momondo like to do really long layovers, and as most of you know, when we went London to Thailand, we actually had a 24-hour stopover in Stockholm, Sweden, and we saved like £140 all up for both of us doing it that way, and we got like a whole day in a brand new country. We just budgeted between us the £140 that we saved. So technically, we didn't spend anything, and we saw like a sneak of a new country, and we really want to go back to Sweden now. Oh my god, Stockholm was just beautiful. Okay, I'm rambling. Not worry about pre-booking your other things before you get to a country, because there's no point and can cost you more. Sometimes it'll cost you less. Either way, if you say are coming to Bangkok and you want to get the overnight train to Chiang Mai, do not try and buy it online. Just go to the train station in Bangkok about 1 or 2 days before, seriously, if you want to get into second class. You have to go a couple of days before with your passport. So just do things like that when you get here. Don't stress about buying it before, because there can be scam websites and you can lose a lot of money. Even though it will take longer and won't be as comfortable, getting the bus long distances will save you an absolute fortune. Yes, it gets tiresome. Yes, you get over it pretty quickly, but getting the bus long distances is definitely a money saver. Definitely, if you can deal with it, then it will really help you budget out. Okay, camera overheated. I went to cool down, she went to cool down, we had a nice time. Also coming into transportation and flights, I just want to quickly say, consider going hand luggage only. It's very difficult now, especially with the weight restriction that they've added onto it at 7 kilos. If you're going to a really cold country, that can be really tough to do. If you travel with a lot of gear, like a laptop, camera, tripod, things like that, and you have to, maybe you're a digital nomad, hand luggage only, can be really tough. However, if you plan on getting a lot of flights, especially short flights where you have to pay extra for baggage, that can add up so quickly. Like those budget flights you see like, oh my god, we can go to Vietnam for like £20. Yeah, add another £25 on for luggage. They really like to get you there. So let's get back to hitchhiking. Scott and I hitchhiked once, and that was in New Zealand, and it was a lot of fun. I will link you up to that vlog. But I'm not an expert in hitchhiking. Some people do it like all the time, absolutely everywhere except America. And they love it. You can go long distances and barely pay anything. You might have to chip in for a bit of gas if it is super far. You get to meet some awesome people, but there are risks to that. And because there are quite big risks to hitchhiking, it doesn't happen a lot, but I can't in good conscience say go hitchhiking. I don't know enough about it. I've only done it once, and that was a very short distance in New Zealand where everyone hitchhikes. So yeah, but hitchhiking, if it's for you, then it's a great option to save a lot of money. And another one that we did recently when we went to Malaysia and came back to Thailand, if you have a super early flight like 4 a.m, 5 a.m, and the cheap options like buses and trains aren't running like after midnight to get you there for that couple of hours before your flight leaves, then save money on accommodation and getting a taxi at stupid o'clock in the morning, and get the last bus to the airport and just sleep in the airport for a couple of hours before your flight. I'm cool enough now, thank you. Okay, let's go on to attractions and activities. Some big museums and art galleries are a lot of the time free to go into. It gives you a great little taste of the history and culture of a country. I love doing it, especially if it's like either a super hot day because they're very cold, or a super cold and windy day because it's dry inside. But certain museums will charge, and sometimes quite a lot to get into, but check, because some days of the week they have free entry, like Wednesdays or Sundays it might be free to get in, or the last Sunday of every month you can get into super expensive places for free. So that's something you might want to check out. When it comes to the big stuff such as bungee jumping, skydiving, jet skiing, things like skydiving stuff, they're not cheap. So when you travel on a budget, you might really want to do a skydive. And that's great, especially if you're in a place like Australia or New Zealand where there's just so much activity like that. As a budget traveler, you're not going to be able to afford to do it all, but what I would say is don't miss out on experiences. Say out of bungee jumping and skydiving, you want to do both, pick one and put money aside for it. If you know you're doing like a 6-month trip around New Zealand or a 1-month trip and you want to do certain things, look at your budget and then select a few that you want to put your money to. Just because you're on a budget, it doesn't mean you can't splurge a little bit. It's so important to say, okay, I might not be able to travel for 5 weeks, I might have to travel for 4 weeks, but I get to live out my dream and do a skydive in New Zealand. Beach days are amazing because if you overspend on one day, have a beach day the next, it kind of balances your budget out again. Do not try and do everything. Seriously, there is so much you could do when you travel, and people get very stressed, like they will spend every hour of the day trying to cram in absolutely everything. Just relax. Chances are you might revisit that country again. Do the real stuff that you really want to do, but I mean, sitting in a cafe with a coffee and people watching for like 2 hours, or taking your Kindle and just taking in the sun of a little tiny village you've come across, that's not a waste of time. To me, that's what I love to do when I travel, is just kind of blend in, relax, have some food at a cafe and just watch the locals go by. Which brings me on to appreciate the smaller moments when you're traveling. They're normally the ones that you get for free, and it's the ones you'll remember forever. You know, go and explore the city and do some photography and get some amazing shots. Go hiking to get the best view of a town. Go and watch the sunset on the beach. These are all free things, and fill your time with them. Meet people, talk to people, people watch. These are all the things, like these connections and little moments are normally always free, and the ones that will mean the most to you later on. Okay, oh my god, this is a really long video, so I'm gonna just leave off with a few money saving tips. So I've done videos on this before, so I will link you for them. Withdrawing money abroad can be a killer to your bank account because of fees. What I always recommend is before you leave, get a travel money card, and that is where you preload money on in your selected currency, and these are normally like Visa or MasterCard, like normally MasterCard, and they're normally accepted around the world where you can withdraw money and even pay on the card. Now, something to note with this, some travel money cards will freeze the exchange rate at the time, which can be good and bad. So say you put £500 on for your trip to Italy onto a card. If the exchange rate is really good, then that's great that it's frozen, especially if it crashes after. You've still got more for your money. But if the exchange rate's really bad and then it goes up after you've loaded your cup, you see what I'm going with this? Also, 99% of ATMs will put a charge on no matter what, and that is unavoidable. When you do withdraw cash, don't do it in tiny sums, because again, the fees are gonna add up super quick. And it will drain your money very slowly and mischievously without you really noticing. So don't be taking £20 out here and £50 out there. Just don't do it. We try to aim for withdrawing money maximum once a week. We try to do even less than that. So don't take it all out, because carrying that much cash is just not a good idea. But take out, you know, good amounts like once a week or once every 2 weeks or something like that, so you're not constantly withdrawing. When it comes to travel insurance, that's a big one that will really cost you a lot of money before you start your trip. Go to something like moneysupermarket.com and it will give you like a comparison of all the big insurance companies. Places like STA Travel and World Nomads offer like 12 and 24-month packages for people traveling long term, but my God, they are so expensive. Now, this is a big question I get asked a lot. Because you can only buy travel insurance when you're in your home country, otherwise it's void. World Nomads is like the only website where travelers and like digital nomads can buy when they're already out there. So it is more expensive because the company knows they're the only one that do it. Unfortunately, if you are traveling long term and you need to top up on your insurance, World Nomads. I would say don't feel bad about shopping. A lot of people are like so stringent on their money that they won't buy anything, and they've got this thing in their head like, I don't need anything. No, I'm not big on material possessions. You know that. I live out of a backpack, and living out of a backpack makes you appreciate not having anything. If you want to buy that silk scarf at the market, have a haggle, have a bit of a bargain, because that's the experience, that is part of it. And don't feel bad. You want to buy that cute tacky key ring and put it on your backpack? Do it. All right? Don't wear like poverty as a backpacker like a medal of honor. All right? You want to splurge a little here and there, go on a little bit of a shopping trip and have a bargain around the markets. Do it. Don't feel bad about it. It's all part of it. And the last thing I'm going to say, because my camera's going to cut me off any moment, is travel slow. If you are traveling like really quickly and moving constantly with flights, then buses, then visas, then accommodation, like, you know, big trips, like round the world trips and things like that, it's gonna cost you a hell of a lot more than if you just stay longer in certain places and travel much slower. Now, we travel super slow because I work online, and this has become more of our life now. We're not so much, well, we are travelers, but this is our life. We live abroad in different areas, and sometimes for things like my book, I have to stop for a few months, relax, take it in, and then build up some savings again, because moving really quickly drains your bank. Trust me. Plus, I really don't think you get to experience a country and a culture when you're staying there for just a couple of nights. You haven't seen that country. It's not a race to tick everything off your bucket list, so please don't try and do that. Don't say, oh my God, I want to be able to go to 20 countries this year so I can tell people I have. No, go to 2 countries. If you really want to and do it well, don't do it, just tick things off your bucket list. Travel's about experiencing things. But a race around the world, it's about the journey, and that sounds really cliche, but it is. So don't rush. It'll save you a lot of money. You'll experience so much more when you slow down, and it's much more enjoyable, because trust me, fast travel is exhausting. Just like this video. Alright, I'm gonna end it there because this has been ridiculously long. I really hope you got a lot out of this. I will link the blog post below, which has a ton of links in as well. So let me know down below what are your money saving tips, because guaranteed I've forgotten to mention probably most of them. And I'll try and link as many videos as I can, but seriously, if you just want to go onto my channel, I've made playlists, and there's just like over 300 videos of advice and vlogs and day-to-day life living on the road. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Subscribe if you want to. We have fun here. It is a lot of crazy and wacky times. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all our PsychoTraveller links are down there as well. And I will see you tomorrow or the next day. That's like my thing now, that's what I say. Okay, all right. Leaving now. Bye, happy travels.